All right, good morning and welcome. Today's session, which is our third session, is going to be on culture and engagement leadership. Now, this lecture would concentrate on sharing how we can leverage technology to transform organizational culture in severally meaningful ways. Before we start, I would want you guys to ponder over these questions. The first one is, how many of you feel confident that you truly understand your organization's culture beyond the values that are posted on either your notice board or your company walls? I will take the question again. How many of you feel confident that you truly understand your organization's culture beyond the values that are posted on your company's notice board or walls? The second question is, how many of you feel you have the tools to measure and influence culture effectively in your organization? Second question, how many of you feel you have the tools to measure and influence culture effectively in your organizations as leaders? So today, we'll concentrate and we'll move to and try to understand how, as leaders, we can move from intuition-based culture management to data-driven culture management. And when I say intuition-based culture management, we are basically referring to managing by using your relying on your gut feelings. So in this lecture, we will try to explore practical ways, how we can use practical tools and strategies to implement how we can understand culture and how we can measure culture as leaders within our organization. Overall, our focus is on trying to understand how we can leverage technology to transform or change organizational culture in innovative ways. So to do that, our objectives in this lecture would be, as I've indicated, the journey will be from data to cultural transformation. And so we hope that at the end of this lecture, we will be able to go through some six critical areas. We will start with the foundation. And the foundation would be understanding how to measure culture using our existing human resource information systems, or the systems that are already there in the organization. Many organizations already have the data they need. They just don't know how to extract cultural insights from it. So we're going to see how we can extract cultural insights from data that is already existing in the organization. Then after that, we will then explore how employee engagement platforms can become a leader's intelligence system. We'll explore how employee engagement platforms can become a leadership intelligence system, giving leaders real-time insights into things like team dynamics and organizational health. Then the third area we want to look at, which is particularly exciting, is we'll discuss how to identify cultural careers or culture careers. And then also we'll juxtapose that with what we refer to as change agents, and how we can identify culture careers, how we can identify change agents by relying on some data we refer to as people analytics. These are the individuals, the culture careers and the change agents are the individuals who can support in accelerating the cultural transformation efforts in organizations. We will then dive into practical strategies for leading cultural transformation through technology. And this will be followed by leveraging on also communication approaches that can build on the issues of transparency and trust. And then finally, we would address the critical challenge of maintaining authenticity in digital leadership interactions. because technology should enhance what? Human connections. Technology is not supposed to come and replace our human connections. So we'll look, these are basically the issues we'll cover in the lecture today. Now, let's start with why this matters, culture matters. And we'll do that by trying to understand some basic statistics. Why is culture so important in organizational transformations? We'll look at some statistics to support this. Now, the statistics we are going to look at are just not numbers. They represent real business impact. Research conducted by Deloitte found that 88% of employees believe that a distinct corporate culture is key to business success. That a distinct corporate culture, employee believe that a distinct corporate culture is key to business success. Basically, what they were doing is that they were highlighting a fundamental shift in how we think about competitive advantage. Okay. Then another thing is that the organizations with strong cultures see 4 times higher revenue growth than those with lower cultures. Organizations with strong cultures see 4 times higher revenue growth than those with lower cultures. So companies like Google, Netflix, and other big companies, they have made culture a strategic priority and not just an HR initiative or a leadership initiative. They see culture as what? A strategic priority. Now, there's some bit of a challenge, and here's the challenge. Culture has traditionally been managed through gut feeling. Traditionally, people, how they feel about stuff, that's how they deal with culture. But we want to look at it from a different perspective. And we want to promote managers who are good at their functional role and hope that they will be good at managing culture too. So when people are put in leadership roles, we are not just hoping that they will be good managers, but we also hope that they will be good at managing the diversity in the organization, the culture in the organization. So another statistics we can look at is that cultural misalignment in organization can cost companies up to $60 billion annually if you look at the global picture. So all these statistics is to support or provide a basis for us to understand how important culture can be in the organizational context. And so as leaders, culture should be one of the strategic priorities we should consider. So I want to ask you guys a question. What will it mean? Let's look at it. What will it mean for your organization if you could predict? What would it mean for your organization if you could predict and prevent cultural issues before they become maybe turnover statistics? So in your organization, you may, as a leader, you should be able to tell that maybe because of the way you are dealing with a particular culture, it may lead to people leaving the organization. So maybe the dynamics in the organization actually shows that maybe majority of the employees are Seventh-day Adventists. And then you constantly would want this particular group of people to do certain overtimes on Saturdays. If this is a cultural thing, a religious thing, if they are not able to combine, if they can't find a way around it, it may lead to them leaving the organization. Apart from that, if you look at Muslims, for instance, they are supposed to pray 5 times a day. If you don't have prayer spaces for them at the workplace, and majority of your employees are Muslims, it can also lead to a turnover issue, and that is why all these things are important for us to consider. Now, if you look at the human resource systems in organizations or systems generally, technological systems in organizations, we can say that these systems are actually sitting on cultural data. And we'll explain why we're saying so. These systems are sitting on cultural data because most organizations use these systems for the purposes of what? Compliance. And also for the purposes of what? Reporting. But we are saying that beneath these systems, there are cultural issues. There are cultural issues. And that is what we want to explore. Now, in organizations, a lot of managers or leaders used to manage by just relying on their instinct, gut feeling. We're saying that as leaders, we are moving away from this perspective of managing by gut feeling to what? Data-driven insights. And so as leaders or as managers, there are some basic statistics we should be aware of and also try to understand how we can track them. Now, examples of key metrics that leaders can track are value-based performance indicators. Now, when we say value-based performance indicators, they are basically output measurements. Now, value-based performance indicators, they go beyond the traditional metrics we know. Instead of just measuring what people are accomplishing or what they are producing, we can measure how they are accomplishing it. Let me say it again. Instead of measuring what people are accomplishing, we should be interested in how they are doing it and not just the what, but how. So, for instance, the question may be, does someone deliver results through collaboration or by just sidelining others? Look at it carefully. Someone may have achieved results by maybe either doing it alone, and by doing it alone, I mean by sidelining others, or the same results can also be achieved by what? By collaborating. So when they do this, do they share credit or they take it all? So if you have sidelined people and you achieve some particular target, do you take the credit alone or do you share it with them? If you are collaborating with people and you achieve a particular target, do you share the credit alone as a leader or you share it with the group? All of these are important for us because beneath all these measurements of outputs are what? Cultural implications. Now, another kind of metrics we may just look at as an example is employee life cycle satisfaction scores. Employee life cycle satisfaction scores basically help us to understand the broader cultural experience journey. So, for instance, where do people feel most aligned? So, in an organization, people can feel either maligned in some way. People may also feel disconnected in an organization. Now, all this data as part of the employee life cycle can help us to predict whether they will actually stay in the organization or they will leave. We may be able to predict that in advance. Now, there are other statistics or other metrics like behavioral alignment assessment. Behavioral alignment assessment are not just a personality test. When we say behavioral alignment assessment, we're basically looking at evaluations of how well someone's actions will match their value, how well someone's actions will match their values. Now, the key here is making these assessments to be an ongoing process, not just maybe at the end of a particular year, you try and find out whether they have performed, whether people are happy or satisfied, or whether their behavior aligns with what? With their values. The actual thing is that the real power comes from we trying to integrate all of this so that when we have a human resource information system, it should be able to give us some performance measurement. It should be able to help us learn, and it should be able to help us also communicate very, very well. Now, when we talk about all these metrics, basically what I'm saying is that all these metrics can lead to people leaving the organization or staying in the organization, depending on how they are affected by certain things in the organization. Okay, so this is just to give us a preamble of how some issues, some key metrics in an organization can have some cultural and underlining issues. How can an organization be developed in terms of technology to be able to measure some of these things that we are talking about? They maybe have systems in place to be able to monitor how well people are performing. Maybe also at the end of every year, maybe employees go through some kind of appraisal, and then their bosses try to understand what they are happy about and what they are not happy about. When all this data is fed into a system, as a leader, the leader should be able to see the broader picture in the organization in terms of the assessments that are going on. And so we're saying that HRIS systems must have the capability to support the bosses, the leaders, the managers, to be able to understand real time what is happening in the organization. And based on that, they may also be able to predict what could likely happen as a result of the changes, as a result of the maybe cultural misalignments that are happening in the organization. And so, for us to be able to understand culture measurement, how we measure culture in the organization as leaders, it is important that we understand certain dynamics. So we're going to look at Human Resource Information System Culture Measurement Framework. I want us to look at the culture measurement framework. The culture measurement framework has got 4 pillars. It has got 4 pillars. We'll look at each in detail. Now, the first one I want us to look at is the behavioral indicators. Now, behavioral indicators are where we are particularly interested in how people react to certain things in the organization. They measure actions that reflect whether the stated values are actually being lived or people are just pretending. Now, the first behavioral indicator in the organization is what? Collaboration patterns. Now, when we say collaboration patterns, what do we mean? Collaboration patterns are not just about whether people work on teams. So when we say collaboration, 2 or more people working together. So when we are looking at collaboration patterns, it is not just about people working together. Maybe they are working as a team. It is also about the quality and what? The frequency of cross-cultural or cross-functional interaction. So you have team A, you have team B. It is not just about how well you are doing in that particular team A or team B. Team A should have something to do with team B because you are all in the organization. So because if you look at business processes are typically what? Cross-functional. So if teams are constituted to work on a particular aspect of a business process, because business processes are cross-functional, they would have something to do with team B. Team B may also have something to do with team C in that manner. And so when we are talking about collaboration patterns, we are not just interested in whether people are working together, but we're also interested in what? The quality and the frequency of the cross-functional interactions they are having. And so as HR leaders or as leaders, the human resource information system should be able to track participation, how people are participating in the teams, and should be able to track it across departments. You should be able to track it across what? Across departments. Because the departments will do what? They will share knowledge. They will share what is going on. So a typical example could be one client may discover that their highest performance teams had 40% more cross-functional or cross-departmental interactions than average teams. So you can be in a team and you realize that your team is even having more cross-departmental interactions than other teams. Now, this insight can help the leader. It can help you as a leader to provide you insight to do what? To redesign how you would do what? You will assign project processes or how you assign people into teams. It can help you. That is on collaboration patterns. Then we also have recognition frequency. Recognition frequency. Now, when we say recognition frequency, this measures, recognition frequency measures how often recognition happens and the patterns surrounding it. So a typical example is in your organization, are the same people always praised? Some of you may have experienced in your organization that one particular person, anytime you have a staff meeting, this person is being praised. So the question about recognition frequency is, it measures both how often recognition happens and the patterns that are surrounding it. And the question I stated earlier was that, are the same people always being recognized? Or are managers recognizing their teams regularly? Right? These are questions we can ask. Another question could be, is peer-to-peer recognition happening naturally? So if you are part of a team and someone is contributing immensely to the team, there should be some kind of what? There should be some kind of recognition. Then we also have what we call innovation submissions. Innovation submissions. Innovation submissions basically measures participation in idea generation and not just successful innovations. Who are those who are bringing the innovative ideas? Is a organization having an open culture to allow people to share their innovative ideas. And then also the last one as part of behavioral indicators is what we refer to as learning participation rates. Now, learning participation rates goes beyond just putting people. Yes. So the last one under behavioral indicators is learning participation rates, which I was just explaining. And I said that this one goes beyond just putting employees through mandatory training so that they will end it. Learning participation rates should also involve people voluntarily trying to learn on the job. All right. Now, the second part of the culture measurement framework I want us to look at is sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis. When we say sentiment analysis, what do we mean? Now, while behavioral indicators show us what people do in organizations, sentiment analysis reveals how people feel about the culture they are experiencing. How people feel about the culture they are experiencing. So let's look at some metrics under sentiment analysis that can help us. The first one is what? Employee net promoter scores. Employee net promoter scores. Now, net promotion is basically how well people are talking about their organization outside. How well or how likely are you to recommend your organization as a nice place to work to others? How nice are you going to talk about your organization to others? It is more predictive of turnover than the traditional satisfaction surveys, and I'll explain why. How well you tell people your organization is doing, people would now feel okay, it will be good to be part of this organization because see how the employees are talking about the organization. As if the employees are promoting the organization to outsiders. We are all aware that with organizations employees who badmouth their own organization, the signals they are sending to outsiders is that the culture in this organization is probably maybe toxic, or they don't have a healthy working environment in that organization. And so because of that, people may not join the organization. So employee promotion is very, very important, okay, and can help us in measuring what? Sentiment analysis, people's sentiments about an organization. Then we also have culture fit ratings. And now culture fit ratings basically measures how well employees feel they align with the organizational culture. How well employees feel they align with the organizational culture. So many of us know of other personality assessment scores. But this particular one focuses on what? Value alignment. So you may have your own cultural values, but the organization would also have its unique values. How well are your values as an employee aligning with the organizational culture? If there's a misalignment, you are likely to leave the organization at some point. You may not feel satisfied working there because maybe either the organization is trampling on your cultural values, and because of that, you may feel uncomfortable to work in that organization. So culture fit ratings, very important. There should be a fit between the employee's value and the organization cultural values. Then we also have value assignment surveys. Value assignment surveys are basically can be described as very short, maybe sometimes very frequent surveys that ask employees specific questions about usually how well the organization is living its values. So an organization's value can be integrity. How well is the organization living it? People are promoted in an undue manner. People are unduly favored. Meanwhile, the organization itself has what? Integrity as its motto or as its value. In that case, there will be what? A value misalignment. An organization can conduct value alignment surveys with employees for the employees to reveal whether the values the organization is espousing, they are actually practicing it. Sometimes there's a misalignment. So sometimes, if an organization that hasn't got an open culture, people cannot even talk about the fact that there's a misalignment in terms of the organization's values and what it is actually practicing. Then the last one is what we call psychological safety. Now, psychological safety indices, what do we mean? This one measures whether people feel safe to speak up, whether people feel safe to speak up. Are people in the organization feeling safe to make mistakes? And if they make mistakes, will they be pardoned? When there's this open culture, when there's this open culture, people will feel free to explore. People will feel free to what? To innovate. So as part of the culture measurement framework, we started by saying that there are 4 pillars of cultural analytics to be able to measure and understand the culture in an organization. One, we looked at the behavioral issues. Then the second one, the sentimental analysis that can be conducted. Let's look at the last 2. The last 2 are outcome metrics. Now, outcome metrics, basically, this is where in the organization we prove that culture is not just a nice thing to have, but actually it can impact on what? Our results, what we intend to achieve. Culture it's not just something we can say, oh, it's nice to have a good organizational culture. But how is this good organizational culture actually transforming into what? Outcomes. That is why we are saying that the third one is what? Measurement of outcomes, outcome metrics. Now, under outcome metrics, what are we looking at? We are looking at first, retention rates by cultural segments. So we should not just be interested in the overall retention. People are not leaving. But we should be able to do what? Segment it by cultural careers. We should be able to segment it. What is actually leading people to stay in the organization? What sort of culture is promoting the retention? Then we can also look at performance correlation with cultural scores. We should be able to track how individuals and team performance, we should be able to track how individual performance, right, and how team performance are related together to each other. We should be able to do that. And sometimes when this is done by organizations, it can reveal very surprising patterns about what is driving your results. Your results results in organizations may not necessarily be driven by performance. That's basically what we are saying. It may be driven by what? Some cultural issues. People may be eager to work. People may be gingered up to work because there are some cultural issues the organization has addressed. And because of that, they are happy to work. And because of that, productivity is increasing, right? Then the other issue is internal mobility patterns. Internal mobility patterns. What do we mean by this? When we have organizations with very intense culture or high culture, typically what happens is that there are more internal movement because people want to stay and grow. So people are able to grow from the lower ranks to what? The upper ranks. People are ready to stay and grow. So there are internal mobility. This can be juxtaposed with high turnover when people leave the organization. We are looking at this as an output metric because we're saying that culturally sensitive organizations can lead to what? Internal mobility. People will stay. They'll be retained. And then they can grow from lower ranks to what? Higher ranks. Internally mobile. As opposed to when cultural sensitivity is very low, people will do what? They will leave the organization. There will be no internal mobility. They will rather have what? High employee turnover. Then another outcome metrics would be, are people actually happy working in the organization? Cultural health. Cultural health. And with this particular one, customer satisfaction links, we can link that with cultural health because cultural health can be seen as related to customer satisfaction. If people are handled and we are sensitive about employees' culture, right, they will be happy being in the organization, especially in what? Organization that has to do with service industries. UDS as an example, the way we relate to our students, the way we relate to each other as staff. If our students are happy, our employees are happy, they may even refer other people to come and join our programs. This particular point is very relevant when we are looking at what? Service-oriented industries or organizations. Okay. Then the last one, under the culture measurement framework, I want us to look at is leading indicators. Leading indicators. Now, leading indicators, we can see leading indicators as a critical early warning system because leading indicators can predict problems, cultural problems, before we even notice what is happening with the other indicators, and we'll look at how it can happen. The first point and the leading indicators are onboarding, culture, immersions. Now, this particular metrics basically measures how quickly and effectively new employees are absorbing the organizational culture. When people come into the organization, we bring them on board. How quickly do they become conversant with the organization's culture? Because look, we can all agree to the fact that poor early culture experiences, it can lead to what? Employee turnover. People join an organization, they are not received well. The culture in the organization is very poor. Nobody cares about what you do. Nobody has no proper induction. Poor culture. Within 1 month, these new employees can start thinking about leaving the organization. Because if the organization has got a poor onboarding culture, then people will not be happy to stay and they would rather want to leave. Then frequency, how managers are, manager culture coaching. Manager culture coaching. New employees are brought into the organization. The managers, assumingly, may be seen as those who have kept long in the organization. So it is important that as managers, we try to do what? We try to inculcate the existing cultures. We try to orient the new employees about the existing cultures in the organization. So manager culture coaching frequency basically tracks how often the managers or the leaders are having a culture focused conversation with their teams. Culture focused conversation. And this can help in team engagement. You tell them what is happening. In this organization, we don't do this. If you do this, you will grow. If you do this, you will never grow. They need to know. And the moment they are aware of all this, then it is also easier for the manager to track how other team leaders are engaging team members in ensuring that they have conversations that are culturally focused so that the team members will understand the organizational dynamics in terms of what? In terms of culture. Then already we mentioned the issue of what? Cross-functionality of teams. What I want to stand on that point to also explain that under leading indicators, we can also have what we call cross-departmental interaction. Cross-departmental interaction. And cross-departmental interaction rates can also help us to measure. Now, if cross-functional collaboration is reducing, then it means that people are not collaborating. Let me take it again. If cross-functional collaboration is reducing, then it means that people are rather working in silos. They are not collaborating very well. people are not collaborating very well. And so cross-departmental interaction raise can also be a critical measure, right? People should work together. The last but not the least is what? Culture champion engagement levels. Culture champion engagement levels. And we'll come to understand later on what we mean by culture carriers. So in every organization, there must be people who know the culture very well. Typically, these people would have been in the organization for a very longer time. So the organization's culture carriers are those who are the embodiment of the organization's culture. And then what we have to note as leaders is that these people, when their engagement with other employees, especially new ones, when it reduces or it drops, there will be cultural problems in the organization, because these are the guys who are the embodiment of culture in the organization. If their engagement with teams, if their engagement with new employees is declining, then there will be a breakdown of engagement in the organization. So going back a little bit to the 4 pillars of cultural analytics, if we want to analyze culture in organization, we need this particular framework. And broadly, we are saying that we need to understand some behavioral indicators. 1, sentiment analysis. We should be able to understand the indicators that can help in measuring sentiments, people's sentiment in the organization. Then we should also be able to measure performance, outcome metrics. We should also be able to, the leader, very critical as leaders. Leading indicators are also very, very important. And you see that all of these measures we are looking at, the culture is a central point. Culture is a central point. We will move a little bit to understand how technology can play a role in all of this. How can technology play a role in all of this? Now, after understanding these 4 pillars, the real power actually comes as a leader. The real power actually comes in terms of how these 4 pillars can work together. So behavioral indicators which show us what is happening, whilst the sentiment analysis will reveal how people feel about what is happening. I'll take it again. Behavioral indicators show what is happening. The sentiment analysis reveals how people feel about it. Then we have the third one, outcome metrics. The outcome metrics prove the business impact. And then the last one, the last one is what? The leading indicators. And the leading indicators will then help us to stay ahead of the problems as a leader. And this is where it all comes together. Because as people learning and training to become leaders, we should be able to understand these leading indicators, because as a leader, it is the leading indicators that will help you to stay ahead of the problems you are likely to experience in your organization. So to be able to lead very well as a leader, you must understand how all these 4 pillars are linked to each other. How can you implement it as a leader? The implementation sequence is quite clear. You start with the leading indicators because they are the easiest to implement, and so that you can provide immediate value. You are the leader. So leading indicators are the first things you should deal with, right? After that, you can add the behavioral indicators, then you implement sentiment analysis, and then you build the outcome metrics. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah, so typically this will be some kind of an implementation strategy. Okay. Now, the next thing I want us to look at is, I briefly mentioned employee engagement platforms. I mentioned it briefly somewhere. Employee engagement platform. Let me go back. Employee engagement platforms. We want to leverage on employee engagement platforms as leaders, we want to see employee engagement platforms as an intelligence tool that can help us as a leader. Now, I want us to take a step back and look at the evolution from traditional engagement surveys. How are people engaging employees as leaders in organizations? How are leaders engaging employees? You can conduct static annual surveys to find out what is happening in the organization as a leader, right? This is very traditional. You can also try to get people's views. And when you do that, maybe qualitatively, you are just getting how people will react to certain things. That's their reactive responses. Or we may implement generic action plans as a leader. Or the leader may just use gut feeling, intuition, or guesswork. We are saying that as leaders, we must engage employees using technology. And if we're going to use technology, we have to use it in a way that will promote or that will depart from the traditional approaches. So we'll look at quite a number of them. So for instance, traditional surveys tell us how people, maybe how people felt last week about something that might have happened at the workplace. Now, by the time you analyze data and create action plans, the situation may have changed completely. Are you getting it? However, if you are using intelligent engagement platforms, what that would do is that it will give you real-time insights, real-time data. So you can think of intelligent engagement platforms as organizational, as some kind of a monitor that will give you insight as to what is happening in your organization, so that you, as a leader, you will be able to react to them just in time. You'll be able to react to them just in time. So if you look at traditionally, instead of using static annual surveys, it is important that we can leverage on technology these days to do what? To continuously learn as leaders. Instead of waiting to interview people at the end of every 6 months or at the end of a quarter, you can use predictive insights. The predictive insights basically will do what? It will leverage on data you have collected several months, several years ago to predict what may likely happen, right? Then instead of as a leader, having generic action plans for all employees, especially when they are working in teams, all teams would have different approaches. So as a leader, you should be thinking about what? Personalized interventions for either individual employees or personalized interventions for what? Individual teams. We are also saying that if you are going to use intelligent engagement platforms, it is also important as a leader to depart from the traditional leadership approach of what? Guesswork. And then try to see how you can leverage on systems to do what? To take data-driven decisions. So anytime as a leader, we are thinking about platforms that can help us to be able to lead very well. You should be thinking about platforms that would give you what? Real-time tracking or real-time data. You should be thinking about platforms that can give you real-time insights, so that based on the real-time insights as a leader, you will not be surprised by problems in what? In your organization. I think I have been talking too long. I just want to find out if you guys are actually following. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Prof, we are on. We are following.
It appears I have been ranting for quite some time.
Yeah, we are following. We are enjoying.
All right. Okay.
We are following, Doc.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So let me carry on. Yeah. Just a minute. Okay. So now let's delve deeper into the engagement intelligence dashboard. And when I say engagement intelligence dashboard, I'm not particularly referring to a particular kind of software. We're basically saying that as a leader, there are certain things you need to know. And there are certain things you need to know them at particular points in point in time. Otherwise, you lose out on critical things that may likely happen in your organization. So all kinds of technologies that we can leverage on so that we can intelligently engage in organizations so that anything at all that is happening as a leader, I would know. So, and when we also say dashboard, I may have used this word a number of times. When we say dashboard, basically what we are saying is that if you look at the nature of an organization, the employees are usually at the bottom, the operational level staff. In the middle, we have the middle level management. And at the top, we have what? The executive management. This is where the leader is sitting, right? This is where the leader is sitting. So as a leader, the leader should be able to have some kind of a technology that will give him or her summaries of what is happening at the employee level, the operational level, summaries of what is happening at the manager level, the middle level manager, so that the summaries the leader is having, those are not the details, but the summaries of what is happening. It is based on these summaries that the leader can then say that, okay, looking at how this particular branch is performing, I think we should close it down based on the profits, because the profit will be the summary. So dashboards basically present summary statistics or summary insights to the leader at a broader level at the top, so that based on that, the leader will be able to do what? Will be able to make informed decisions. So we are saying that engagement intelligent dashboard should be thought of as organizational vital signs monitor. It helps the organizations it helps the leader to monitor the vital signs of what? The people you are leading, the organization. So just like a doctor doesn't just give a patient the same information they will give a medical student. Are you getting it? They need to tailor it. So as a leader, the leader should also be able to tailor the communication, the whatever he's going to give to the middle level management, and then tailor it to what he's going to give to the lower level management. And so we're saying that at each level, the systems that are used by the employees are different. The systems that are used by the management is different. The system that is used by the executives are also what? Are also different. But as a leader, the leader must have that overall insight in terms of what is happening at the bottom, at the middle, and even at what? At the top. I hope you understand. So now I want to walk you through what each stakeholder needs to see and why this differentiation is very crucial for what? For success. So those are the employee level. So for instance, if you go to say Melcom, you see that there are some people at the entrance who will, if you are buying an item, they will check it. There are also some people sitting behind the counter, supervisors, middle level managers. Maybe these people monitor the stock levels and whatnot. But there are also big guys at Melcom who you won't see at all. They are the executives. So they all would have different views of the system. What they see in the system is different from what? From each other. So I'll give you some examples, and we'll start with the top. The executive. What are they confronted with? The executive view, and this is the strategic perspective. The executives are usually, the leaders are usually what? Those who take the strategic decisions. And they are not interested in things like, maybe Joanne in the accounting department is having a rough week, but they absolutely need to do ABC. They are not interested in those details, right? They are interested in the results. The management, the manager view, or those at the management level, those who are at the operational level, they are supposed to deal with the fine details, right? Okay, then the manager view, the middle level management, they also have basic things they also need to what? They also need to monitor. And then when we look at the employee level, they also have the things they are supposed to monitor. But all of this, where does culture come in all of this? If there's no cohesion between the employee level, the manager level, then it means that the data that will come to the executive or the leader, it may not be the right data. And that is why throughout these particular levels, either the employee level, the manager level, or the executive level, it is important that we have what we call the culture carriers and the change agents. Otherwise, the leader will be ruling or the leader will be leading naked. So what I want us to now consider is finding who the cultural carriers are in an organization and understanding who these cultural carriers are or the change agents are. Now, the culture carriers in every organization, we can describe them as those who actually are the embodiment of the cultural DNA in the organization. The cultural DNA are embedded in the what? In the cultural carriers. They are those who would naturally embody anything cultural, and they spread the values without being asked, without being asked, managed, or they are not even motivated to do that. They are gingered up. They know all what is happening in the organization, and they love what is happening. They love the culture of the organization. Now, the culture carriers are not necessarily the highest performers. When we say someone is a cultural carrier, they are not necessarily those who are doing very well or who are doing best in the organization. And they may not necessarily be former leaders. But what is unique about them is that they have something far more valuable. They have some kind of an influence, and they have some natural cultural alignment with the organization. So usually in organization, we can even find a security guy. He knows a lot about the organization, and he can tell even executives that, look, I have been in this organization for over 20 years. And in this organization, if you don't do ABC, you are likely to have problems. Because of the nature of this person's love and understanding of the culture of the organization, this person can be a cultural carrier. So, well, some people disagree and say that the person everyone may be assuming is a cultural carrier may actually be somebody who is just good at managing up. And maybe the real influencers in the organization may be below, may not even be noticed. But because cultural carriers embody the broader organizational culture, sometimes we just think that they are the best influencers in the organization. So, how different are these culture carriers from the change agents? We'll come to that. But before that, who are the cultural carriers? The cultural carriers are employees who consistently model company values. They are high performers, but not necessarily so always, with strong cultural alignments. So we mentioned earlier that in an organization, our individual culture should align with what the organizational culture. If there's a disalignment, people may likely leave the organization, right? People may leave the organization. Okay. Okay. Now, the issue of high performance with strong cultural alignments, I just want to throw some more light on that. Not all high performers are what? Are cultural carriers. I think I've mentioned this. And not all culture carriers are top performers, right? But if someone is a culture carrier, the person may also be a high performer, right? It's mutually exclusive. Then we also have the issue of natural influencers within networks. Now, these natural influencers are people who have influence that are not tied to their title or position. So people you can have an organization where the manager is there, the director is there, the deputy director is there. But when people have problems, they don't go to the director. Neither do they go to the deputy director. They go to these people who are the natural influencers. They go to these people who are the natural influencers. People will go to them and seek advice. People trust them with their judgment and follow their lead in some kind of they follow their leads. Whatever they tell them, they would rather listen to those people than their manager. Then these people are seen as the connectors who bring people together, and they bridge the diversity gaps in organizations. So as leaders, we should be able to identify these people and use them. So sometimes leading may not necessarily be by following the hierarchy in the organization. You can identify these people, the cultural carriers, and then see how you can use them to create influence or drive performance in your organization. Okay. Now, as opposed to change carriers, change agents. Change agents are not the same as what? Culture carriers. Change agents are different from culture carriers. Culture carriers, whilst culture carriers maintain and reinforce existing culture. And when I say existing culture, let's look at it from the positive sense. Because if someone is an embodiment of negative culture, it will lead to organizational collapse. The organization will not grow. So when we are talking about cultural career, we are talking about those who are an embodiment of what? Existing positive culture. However, when we are talking about change agents, the change agents help organizations to evolve and adapt anytime change is needed. Let me take it again. The culture carriers, they maintain and enforce existing positive culture. They don't change anything. They just enforce it. This is how we do things. So if someone comes with some innovation and they tell you that, look, in this organization, we do not tolerate this kind of negative behavior. This is the way we do our things. Those who promote this, they are the culture carriers. But change agents will help the organization to evolve and adapt their culture when it is needed. So there can be some opposition between what? A change agent and a culture carrier. Because the change agent may see that if we adapt the culture just a little bit, because of changing technological landscape, the way we used to do things have to change. The change agent comes in. But the culture carrier says, no, I will not agree. Because this is the way we have been doing things. So look at it this way. If you have someone who is a culture carrier, but this culture carrier is also a BBC, he doesn't like technology. But the change agent loves technology. You can imagine that there will be clashes. There will be clashes because whilst the culture carrier is trying to what? Reinforce existing positive culture, the change agent is helping the organization to what? To evolve and adapt to the new things that are what? That are happening. Okay. So what can we use to identify some of these cultural influences? There are quite a number of measures I have listed there again. So we can use social network. And this one can show us who has broad influence across the organization. Because the organization who has broad network across the organization, social network scores. There are some people in the organization, they come to work, they go and sit in their office, they don't talk to anybody. For these particular people, their social network score will be what? It will be very low. It will be very low, right? So if you want to conduct change in an organization, you don't involve those people because their social network score is very low. In an organization, it is also important that organizations conduct what? Readiness assessment, change readiness assessment. And they can do this to identify people who will embrace the change rather than what? Resist it. So as if you have change agents and change is coming. Remember, I just created some two scenarios and I said that we have the culture carrier, then we have the change agent. The culture carrier reinforces existing positive cultures. The change agent tries to see how the organization can evolve and adapt to culture when it is needed. Now, if you conduct change readiness assessment, you'll be able to identify people who would embrace the change. Those who are likely to embrace the change are those who will align more with what? The change agent. And those who are going to resist the change are likely to be some people who may be stagnant with the culture carrier. And because they think they should be stagnant, they should reinforce existing cultural values that are positive and should not change because that is not the way they have been doing things. But the data may show otherwise. So there can always be a clash between these two groups of people. Then we also have what we call innovation participation. Now, innovation participation rates reveal those who actively contribute to organizational evolution, those who actively contribute. We can also use other metrics like mentorship and coaching activities. Mentoring and coaching. Mentoring and coaching activities can help us discover natural talent, right? It can help us determine natural talent, and it can also help us understand people who would help others to grow and who would help others to what? To adapt. So someone can be positioned someone can be positioned in the organization as a culture carrier, reinforcing existing positive values. But because of the stagnant approach of this culture career, we may find someone in the organization to try and mentor him, to try and coach him, to understand that change, especially in this digital age, is inevitable. So please, though we used to do this culturally, and we have been doing this culturally, it has been helping us, but our current technological landscape doesn't allow that. So we have to evolve alongside the technology. Otherwise, we will be left out. So coaching and mentoring can be used to help in addressing this. Then, yes. Okay. In a question. I initially didn't think this lecture would take that long, but it appears I've been talking too much. All right. So basically what I was trying to do was to try and let you understand that as leaders, now the critical thing in this lecture for me is for us to understand how we can leverage on culture to ensure organizational transformation in the advent of technological changes. Right? Any question? Any question? If you don't have a question, I have a question for you. So I want us to go back to something I started with. So I want to ask this question. How many of you feel confident that you truly understand your organizational culture? So let me give you the opportunity to unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself to talk. You can unmute to talk. How many of you feel confident that you truly understand your organization's culture beyond the values posted on your organization notice board? Do you understand your organizational culture? And if you do you feel that you have the tools to measure and influence culture effectively? Apart from that, my other question would be, how do you differentiate a culture carrier in an organization and a change agent? And how can the two work together to ensure leadership transformation in the midst of technological growth or technological developments?
Well, please, the question again. The last question.
I think I've asked so many questions. The last question. The last question. Yes. Yeah. So the last one, I was saying that there's usually that confusion or opposition between a change carrier and a change agent, and you are the leader. How do you ensure that the conflict between culture carrier and the change agent can be minimized in the advent of technological change? That's a long question. So here's the question again. We have the the culture carrier. We have the change agent. You are the leader. 3 parties. And you know that as a leader in today's global digital competitive environment, you cannot lead without leveraging on technology. So you are bringing in technology as a leader to ensure organizational transformation. But you are also aware that the organization has an embedded culture. And this culture is protected by the culture carriers. The technology you are bringing, some people are also leading the technology, and they are the what? The change agents. You are the leader. How are you going to ensure that the conflict between the culture carrier, the change agents are minimized so that the technology you are bringing to transform the organization is done smoothly? Do you understand my question? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, Prof. We
So
understand.
that is the question I have just posed. That is what the whole topic is about. I've summarized the topic into a question. That's what the topic is about. The topic is about how we can leverage on technology to transform organizational culture. But I'm saying that in this transformation of organizational culture, there's a problem because there are groups of people called the culture carriers. Because every organization has a culture, and some people some people will be hell bent on protecting the organizational culture. You have just been brought into the organization, and you have realized that the organization has got some strong embedded organizational culture. But as a leader, you need to transform this organization. So you want to bring in this technology and this and that to help. You are also coming in with maybe a team, or you have appointed some people in the organization as team leaders of the technology. These people will be what? They will be the change agents. You are the third party sitting at the top as the leader. Definitely there will be conflicts because these people will say that, look, this is the way we have been doing, and you are just coming to disrupt everything. The change agents will clash with the what? The culture carriers. How do you lead in the midst of these changes? Do you understand me now?
So, Prof.
Yes.
Prof, I'm just thinking about something.
Okay.
So I am thinking that whatever the change agents work would be, it shouldn't be a total overhaul or an abrupt change in the culture,
Okay.
but rather it should be a modification to whatever is existing. And if per the strategy of you, the leader, that culture needs to be wiped out totally, then the change agent should approach that gradually. It shouldn't be a sudden activity whereby it is more like a coup. We are sweeping this out and then bringing this in. This is what I am thinking. The change should be gradual.
Change should be gradual.
Said that the cultural careers, as you spoke about, wouldn't feel that they are being wiped off totally. And also, whatever the work of the change agent would be, it should be hinged on the culture. It should be built on the culture.
Okay.
Such that gradually, when you build any modification on the culture, and then later that culture needs to go, then by then the employees would have seen the sense in or the wisdom in whatever change you are bringing. because I believe that change usually would be resisted. So it should be done gradually. This is my understanding of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I love your concluding remark. Change would be resisted. So it should be done gradually. Any other? How would you approach this as a leader? So these are the sort of questions you would come across. You will see that the question I have even posed directly, we have not talked about it that way. We have looked at concepts, but I have been able to frame the topic around some concepts. This whole course about leadership and organizational development is supposed to develop your thinking around how you would apply concepts in organization as a leader. So my exams will not be like take the slides, try and choose some points and come. No. It will be for you to discuss practically how you deal with it. And I quite love the way the gentleman responded to the issue. For questions like this, you may not have a one-size-fits-all answer to it, because leaders will have different approaches to issues. You should always try to be clear about what assumptions you are going to make and how you are going to stand on those assumptions to justify the actions or the decisions you would take. All right. Okay. So yeah, I think it's 12 o'clock. I'm going to end my session for today now. And as usual, I will share the slides with you. I will share the recording with you as well. If you take the slides, you would find some best practices, digital leadership best practices in there. You can take a look at them. How do you measure success? You can take a look at them as well, and how you can overcome the challenges. What I have also included is I've also included, if you want additional learning material, because the learning doesn't end here. Additional learning materials, these resources would also help in deepening your understanding and providing you practical insights in terms of how you can deal with this issue of culture and technology as a leader. All right, thanks so much, and we'll meet again next week.
Thank you.